Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Market Psychology 101, where we practice conditioning our minds to find value where there's fear and to be cautious where there's greed. If you find anything I say to be helpful, please consider liking and subscribing. This video is going to be all things crypto. So, we're going to take a look across the crypto market. We're going to look at the Bitcoin rainbow chart, the crypto fear and greed index, and see what we find. I did want to start off with an update on Binance Coin. Something I found interesting is that Binance Coin on the monthly did have a sell signal on the 1020 MA crossover with Heikin-Ashi signals. So we did get a sell signal. Now, yes, we might just be ranging, and maybe things at Binance overall are going to be okay. As you can see on those moving averages, we are going to have a cross. So maybe we get a buy signal next month or 2 months later and things go back up. But I did find that interesting. And just check that. Let's see, if we look at a buy sell, another buy sell signal, the last sell signal we had, and this indicator was a while ago. And right here, we're just tightening up. So we'll see what happens from there moving forward. We were recently overbought, and now it looks like we are going to be going back to oversold levels. Maybe we get back to this 215 level for Binance Coin. From there, we'll see what happens. Let's go to Bitcoin. Now, for Bitcoin, we'll take a look at some cryptos through the bull market support band. Within the last year, we were recently overbought on the RSI. I do think that we might cross over this again during December because it is Q4 and we tend to be bullish in Q4. So I would not be surprised if Bitcoin goes to 40,000. I think 40,000 would be a good psychological level to see what it does there. And if it gets above that, maybe we go as high as 46,000. But I will be watching the levels 40,000, 46,000, see what crypto does there. And I would be expecting somewhat of a correction back to the bull market support band. As you can see, even when we work our way well above it, of course, the bull market support band will slowly move up and the price can just range sideways, maybe slowly come back down to where they meet together on average 3-4 months later, here, October. So maybe during January, February, we'll meet together somewhere around this 35,000 range. Let's take a look at total market cap excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. We were recently overbought, so I would expect that we again would meet the support band out here. Might we get below it again and bounce? We'll see. But if we zoom out, we've had this ascending trend line on higher lows for a total market cap of altcoins, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, one thing I do think is better for crypto now compared to previous bull run cycles is, as you can see, there was a lot more volatility in the market. I do think for people to consider crypto to be a more safe style investment, there needs to be less volatility because people do talk about how Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation. You can't print more Bitcoin. For that to be true, Bitcoin needs to stop experiencing such dramatic price swings. A year ago, we were at, let's go back to Bitcoin. A year ago, we were at levels in the $16,000, $15,000 range, and now we are almost 3 times higher. So for Bitcoin to be a good hedge against inflation, I do think its price has to stabilize more. But so far, we have been having 4-year cycles in crypto where every 4 years we have these mega bull runs. Going to sell off, chop around a little bit, mega bull run. Here we had a double top, sold off, chopping around, creating higher lows. Are we going to have a little bit of a correction, maybe down to the mid low 20,000 levels before our next mega bull run. Let's look at Bitcoin dominance. This is, no, I just drew this line here for the beginning of June because in an election year, seasonality wise, early June, late May is when we have our lows, not like other years outside of the election year. Seasonality, we usually have lows in March. So that does seem to line up with election year seasonality. The halving is in April. Where is Bitcoin dominance going to be by then? Is it going to be down here? Or is it going to be up here? If Bitcoin dominance gets above 56%, that's where I'm going to be watching what the price of Bitcoin is at, where altcoins are at, where the relative strength indexes are at. Are alts going to be bleeding back into Bitcoin? Because if we are low on this total three, if many alts are oversold on the RSI, and I don't really care where Bitcoin is at that point, where its price is, but if dominance is up here and those other factors are true, even if many alts I like aren't within 10% of a yearly low, I might consider buying into them, thinking or planning on there being a mega bull run as we've seen before. Now, before we look at some alts specifically, I did want to take some time to look at the Bitcoin rainbow chart on blockchaincenter.net. Shout out to them. These are the levels on the rainbow chart. And again, people believe in diminishing returns over time for Bitcoin. Right now, it's saying it's in an accumulation zone. Will we get back down to the buy or fire sale zone? Who knows? But next April, that is when we have the next halving. So we'll see where it is at that time. The other halvings, the first halving, which is off the screen right now, that was in the basically a fire sale zone. The second halving here was in the buy zone. If you're looking at the top comparing, last halving we were in the accumulation zone. So if that trend continues, will we be in the still cheap zone when we have the next halving? And it looks like that's highly probable that with the way we've been trending up, maybe that pattern continues. And at that point, where will the still cheap zone be? 48,000 to 63,000? We'll see. I mean, if there's ETF approvals that are going to happen in January, that would not surprise me that maybe we get to those levels. Let's take a look at the crypto fear and greed index over time. The greed index has been slowly climbing up. Now, we have not been this high. We're at 74. But since November of 21, let's take a look at where Bitcoin was in November of 21. November of 21, that's when we were experiencing our double top, the second top from that bull run. Now, that is for Bitcoin. A lot of altcoins ran to here and they didn't do too much after. Now, if you got lucky, there were some other alts that had good price action in here, but overall, many of them, most of their bull run was in this range. But for Bitcoin, the last time we were this high on the greed index, we were topped out. So I do wonder, and by the way, I do think this could even go higher, but we haven't been at this level since we were at our last top in Bitcoin. Now, one thing I did want to take a look at is where were we in July of 19 before we had this false top and then we sold off into the crypto or into the COVID sell-off March of 2020. Where were we in July of 2019 or February of 20? This is the first time I'm looking at it, so we're looking at this together. July of 2019, would you look at that? We were topped out on the greed index. What was the other one? February of 2020. February of 2020. Yep, we were right there. So we were topped out locally in the greed index, the fear and greed index at those points before we slowly sold off, before we had a black swan event. Is that going to happen again? Here you'll see when we get really high in the fear and greed index, when we get high in greed and it starts to range in here, usually we'll have a big dump. Here we had a big dump, and it starts to range, accumulate. But again, we haven't been at these levels since November of 2021. So is this the start of a real bull run? I don't think so yet, just because Bitcoin dominance. I am wondering what will happen as it hits the bull market support band. Is it going to once again bounce and keep going higher? If the bull market support band, if it was to break through there on the Bitcoin dominance, then maybe that would be the start of the altcoin bull run. But I am expecting to see Bitcoin dominance get up to this 57 to 59% level before we retrace into altcoins. Let's take a look at some of the major altcoins. We'll start off with Ethereum. I do see Ethereum ranging and tightening in this ascending wedge. By this time, again, we talked about Bitcoin dominance possibly being topped out around June, and here we'd already be very coiled. By that time, will Ethereum shoot up from these 2,000 levels? Some people are calling for 8 to 10K Ethereum, maybe. I could see Ethereum going up 4 or 5x. And again, we've talked about this before. What would that mean for market cap? Well, that would mean Ethereum would have a 1 trillion or 1.25 trillion market cap if it were to 4 or 5x. Is that possible for the second biggest crypto? I think it is. I think that's possible. But just macroscopically, if we're considering all macroeconomic factors, what's going on with the yield curve inversion? Where would we be with the uninversion of the yield curve? Where would the Fed be with rate cuts? I think if we're going to have a true mega bull run, yet again, 4-year cycle and all that, that maybe rate cuts would start sometime early next year, March, May, who knows. And after rate cuts, we tend to tank. Maybe we tank and bottom somewhere around July, August, and then we get our bull run. I do wonder if that is going to happen. Let's take a look at XRP, Ripple. So you guys, you know what I like to say, is a stock or crypto within 10% of a yearly low? No, this one's slowly making higher lows, and we were recently overbought. Here, we double tapped on the oversold region of the RSI. Here, if you like Ripple, just by what I would do, this is where I would have bought. Or here, as you can see, we were oversold and we double tapped. That would have been another time to buy for me personally. Let's take a look at Solana. What's Solana looking like? So Solana, it really shot up. We're at 60 right now. Last time we were oversold and double bottom on the oversold region of the RSI. You could have taken a look to buy at the levels here. If you like Solana, those wouldn't have been bad areas. But it is likely that it's going to range, maybe even bleed down a little bit, get to the 50 range, and meet with the bull market support band. And look at that, that would be in February. So what would happen in February? Would it then break through the bottom or bounce? Who knows? But macro-wise, I don't see any reason for Solana to jump up too hard I'm not saying it can't make a base and go up again, maybe as high as 70. But for me personally, long term investor mindset, I would not be looking at buying Sol yet. I do like Sol as a crypto for many reasons. Cardano, here we've been chopping up and down. We were recently overbought on the RSI. You could have taken a look to buy anywhere here as we were double and triple tapping the oversold region of the RSI. If you like Cardano, you would have dang near double your money already. So what is it going to do? Is it going to come back down and just keep ranging? As you can see, within the last year, we've been going around 0.25 to 0.4, and we've gone up, down, up, down, up. Are we going to go down again? Who knows? But if you like Cardano, I would be patient personally to see if it comes down one more time. And if you wanted to buy in, it should have been back in these areas when we were hitting the oversold region of the RSI multiple times. Let's take a look at Doge. Doge, another one similar to Cardano, just been ranging, going up and down. We've recently been overbought in the RSI. If you like Doge, again, look to see where does it double, triple, 4 times tap the oversold area of the RSI. That is when I buy stocks or cryptos that I like. Here, it would be within 10% of a yearly low. Here, you would be hitting the RSI multiple times and not going lower. So I don't think that's too bad. Link, we recently had a big run up. I am big on Link. I like Link as an altcoin going forward. But again, as we were hitting the oversold area on the RSI, getting close to yearly lows, these would have been the times to buy. If you are a patient long-term investor, overall, you do not chase the hype, the pumps, and buy right now. You want to condition yourself to be cautious where there is greed, like we talked about. Remember, the last time greed was this high, we had the double top in Bitcoin. When greed topped out in 2019, okay, that was the pre-halving year. We slowly sold off. 2020, that was the halving year. When we topped there, we had the Black Swan event and sold off. We're coming up to the halving year in 2024. But I am wondering if greed is going to go a little higher before we sell off. As far as altcoins go, I think that's all I'm going to do for today. Maybe let's do one more. Let's take a look at Matic. I have some Matic myself. And when was the last time I bought Matic? I want to say I bought Matic. We have to go back a little bit. I bought some Matic back here and back here. Now, here we were oversold. I believe I did buy some Matic most recently back here as well. And recently we've been overbought. And so this is another one. If we take a look within the last year, we've just been slowly coming down and now ranging. We had a higher high. Are we going to create then a higher low? Maybe come back down to somewhere around the support band, somewhere around 60 cents. If we get there, depending on what the RSI is, if the RSI bottoms out maybe in January, when we're in these levels, if you like Matic, that might not be the worst time to DCA in. Anyways, that's all I got for today, guys. As far as all things crypto is concerned, none of this is financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. I am not even a trader. Everything I say is just my opinion, which comes from having a lot of experience and knowledge in the field of psychology, which I've used to my advantage to find value where there is greed when I've invested. Overall, my investments have done pretty good. So if you are looking at being a medium long-term investor, focus on macroeconomic conditions and looking for good times to buy, I do think my channel can be helpful to you. So please consider liking and subscribing. And I hope you all have a good weekend.